Once again, a good morning to everyone. Welcome to the SABPP Ethics and Governance webinar. We thank you for joining us. Today we have two excellent presenters. Just to let you know that the slides and recording will be shared with you, and you will be gaining CPD points for this webinar as well. In total, for the 2 days, it's 3 CPD points. I just want to check that both our presenters are with us today. It's Mario Fazekas and Penny Milner-Smith. We're going to begin with Mario Fazekas' presentation. Before that, just a few house rules. Please kindly could you switch off your videos? This is to help with the connectivity, and if you could mute yourself as well. This is to help with the sound quality as well. If you have questions, please post them in the chat facility. Please do not interrupt the presenters. We ask you to post it in the chat facilities, and there will be time for the presenters to engage with your questions. Okay. So again, if I could ask everyone to switch off their videos and to mute themselves. Thank you. Great, thank you very much. So welcome once again. So our first presenter is Mario Fazekas. Mario is Director at Exec Forensics. Mario is a certified fraud examiner and fraud risk management with fraud risk management experience globally. He has provided fraud prevention, detection, and management solutions globally as well. Warm welcome to Mario. Thank you for sharing your insights today. Mario, are you ready with your presentation?
I am, AJ.
Great. You can go ahead and share your screen.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it, Mario.
Great. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
If you'd like, you can do it in the, yes, exactly.
Okay, good to go, AJ?
Yes, Mario, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Good morning, ladies and gents. I would like to start off by going through a few acronyms. There are many acronyms relating to PoPI, and it's important that we have a brief overview of them. So the slides will be made available to you, so I'm not going to read through all of them, but there are the key ones that you need to be made aware of. And in particular, the DPA, because that is the Data Protection Authority in the UK, which the PoPI Act is 90% based on. The DPA has been superseded now by the GDPR, and you'll see that PoPI very closely resembles both the DPA and GDPR. And the OECD and FIPS are global frameworks, and you'll see they are not as comprehensive as the GDPR is. Now, if you focus on the PoPI Act, it was signed into law on the 26th of November. It's been on the cards for 17 years. And I'm so glad that this webinar was postponed, because 2 days ago, the president promulgated the commencement date. So we don't have to wonder anymore. 17 years of waiting has come to an end. It's going to commence on the 1st of next month. Don't panic, because we all have 1 year with which to conform to the Act. And that's what I'm going to go through. I'm going to show you some of the issues that people have experienced under GDPR and what we suggest you start doing in the next year. Make the most of the next year. So if we compare the core principles between PoPI and the DPA, you'll see we very closely resemble them. And for example, they look at the collection of data. So in terms of marketing, how are we collecting the names of the people we're going to market to? The key aspect of PoPI is that we have to assume people have opted out unless they've specifically consented to opt in. So it's critical to have the evidence where people have said, yes, I want to subscribe to your newsletter or whatever emailings you are sending out. In terms of the data quality, the data collected must be accurate and relevant. You must have a legitimate reason why you have this person's contact details on your database. is he a potential client? If not, then why is he on your database? So again, I'm not going to read through all of these. You can read through these at your leisure when you receive the slides. The one I want to focus on is number 6, the reasonable security safeguards, because that is what makes newspaper headlines. When we see companies being hit with ransomware attacks and these big data breaches where millions of records are stolen and then made available on the dark web, that is what makes the newspaper headlines. And that's where we don't want to be. So let's have a look at some of the contravening actions. What has happened so far under the GDPR? We've listed, we're going to show you 2 pages of what people have been doing. Hard copy of private information was lost, and 25 times it was sensitive information. People are still using unencrypted computer drives, unencrypted CDs and backups, unencrypted memory sticks. And they're saying that's a no-no. If you've got confidential information, it must be encrypted in case you lose it. People have provided or sent information to unauthorized recipients by mistake, not disposing of paper records in a secure manner. And 6 of these were sensitive data. We know that there are people called dumpster divers that go through the trash. To us, it's trash. We don't need it anymore. But it may be copies of our clients' identity books and with their ID numbers on it. That could cause a lot of damage. There's inadequate website security and so on. So we've listed here 28 contravening actions from, and you'll notice on page 1, the majority were sensitive, going down to these that are only a few were sensitive. For example, CCTV cameras. Which way are they pointing? Why are they pointing out from your premises? Videoing people walking past that have got nothing to do with your premises. And under the GDPR legislation and PoPI, people can say, do I appear on your video? And if so, please remove me. I do not give consent for my face to appear on your video. So you have to go so far as to think the security cameras, are they facing in? Are they facing out? Are they looking into residences across the road from our premises? If so, those people could complain. So what you should start considering now, ladies and gents, is that you need to appoint an information officer. You've got a year to think about it. Who's going to be this information officer? Is it going to be a standalone position? Is it going to be somebody that'll share the task? Could be your risk manager, your compliance officer, your IT, your information security person. You would have to decide. If you have got any contracts, you need to update them in terms of PoPI's requirements. You need to decide on a compliance framework. Is it going to be part of an existing framework or a standalone framework? You will need to draft and implement the right policies to cover the PoPI requirements. You're going to need appropriate controls and processes to ensure that your framework is effective. And part of those controls is staff awareness. But I've put that separately because, ladies and gents, that's the key to this, any compliance framework working or not working. I think someone's audio is on.
We'll help you with that, Mario. Apologies for that.
So we say, ladies and gents, the key is employees. Any compliance success or failure is primarily dependent on employee actions. If you think back to the golden triangle of organizational transformation, I think most of you have seen the graphic. People, process, and technology. Those are the 3 keys. And you can have the best processes, the most up-to-date technology. It's the people that ensure they work or not work. And here's a survey that Deloitte did in 2010. So they did this in the USA and showed that on average, 45% of employees are engaged. 55% are not engaged or actively disengaged, meaning they're going around trying to sabotage things within the business. They are disgruntled employees. So that was way back in 2010. Have things changed since then? Well, Gallup did a poll. And if we look at sub-Saharan Africa, we have 17% on average of employees who are engaged. Those are people admitting, yes, I'm engaged, or I don't care. I come to work just to get my paycheck. I don't really care what happens. The building can burn down for all I care. So only 17% of your employees are engaged, which means the rest are simply going to sleep during training, or will be trained and know what to do and will decide not to do it. If you look at the PONAMON cost of data breach study, South Africa's down at the bottom. You'll notice that 37% of the data breaches were caused by human error. Somebody clicked a link that they shouldn't have clicked on. 37%, another 37% are malicious or external criminal attack, meaning malicious insider or outsider. So you could look at least 50% of these data breaches are caused by somebody inside maliciously allowing it to happen or by mistake clicking on a link. What's HR's role in all of this? If you look at fraud risk management, we have what we call left of fraud and right of fraud. Left of fraud is the fraud triangle. I think many of you will be aware of the fraud triangle. Three things happen. Person's under pressure. They see the opportunity, which could be the breakdown of controls. They rationalize in their mind it's okay to do this bad thing. They'll come up with a good reason. I'm just going to borrow the money from my employer. When I hit the jackpot, I'll pay it back. They won't even know I've borrowed it. When those three things come together, the person crosses the line and commits the fraud. He conceals the fraud, because that's the element of fraud. It's concealment, misrepresentation. And then he converts it. People don't steal money because they love the smell and feel of the paper. They want to spend it and buy jewelry and clothing and motor cars and so on. So right of fraud is very costly, ladies and gents. You start looking at hundreds of thousands, if not millions of rands to investigate white-collar crimes. So it's critical that your compliance and anti-fraud framework is robust. And we look at four parts: prevention, detection, investigation, and correction. Those four together is called the fraud deterrence life cycle. We don't want to have to get to the red. The red is very costly. So we look at the green and the beige, prevention and detection. We need to try and prevent the fraud, meaning that the person could be under pressure. They see the opportunity and they say, well, let me not do it because the last person that did it ended up being fired, went to jail, whatever. Or we must detect it as quickly as possible. Most fraudsters test the system in the first 6 to 12 months. If they get away with it, thereafter, they start increasing the amounts they steal. So in the first year, they could steal R1 million. By year 3, they're stealing 6, 7, 8, 10 million rand, if not more. So what do we do on the left of fraud? There are 10 building blocks. Based on the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Those are the blocks we need to look at. And it's not a menu where you choose one or two. It's all or nothing. They all work together to complement each other. They are based on the COSO framework. So the COSO framework, you can see there's an internal control or risk management framework. And we've color-coded these 10 blocks from the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners to show you how it ties in. All those blue blocks is what we call the control environment. And what role does HR play? They play a role in all of those blue blocks. Obviously, recruitment, policies, ethics, accountability, hotline, and phone at the top. But the bigger role we see is HR playing in training and awareness and monitoring. Those are two key areas, and those are the two I'm going to focus on now, not the obvious blue ones. So in terms of training and awareness, we've been speaking about the PoPI Act, and the PoPI Act looks at IT security. How safe are your databases with your employee details, your customer details, and so on? So if you look at the OSI, Open System Interconnection, there are 7 layers. And I think most organizations have these 7 layers covered. Your IT department will make sure of that. What's missing is the 8th layer, which is the security awareness layer. It's the people element that's missing. Many of our IT people that we speak to say, oh, but we've got email filters, we've got firewalls, we've got intrusion detection. But recent surveys found that 15% of malicious emails get through these filters and firewalls because they're not configured correctly, or the criminals are reaching employees via social media or working from home, where the modem and router is not very secure, and they're using default passwords. So the critical element is number 8, staff awareness. There's a problem with what we call old school security awareness. So what happens is people come to a course and they sit there for a day, and that's the tick in the box. We comply, our people have attended training. What we've found, ladies and gents, is that most people, after just 1 week, retain 30% of what they've supposedly learned. 1 week, 30%. Imagine after a month, imagine after 3 months. And most of the training is what we term formal training. It's not experiential. And we learn best through experience.
Sorry about Mario. Please, can I ask you if I can ask everyone to mute their mics, please? Sorry about it, Mario.
No problem, Ajay. It happens. We also found that the attention span of people nowadays, the millennials, especially, is around about 20 to 30 minutes. And if it's not entertaining, people just drift off. They don't care how important it is and the assets of the business are at stake. They don't really care. Many people are demotivated, especially now with the current situation with COVID-19. People are worried, they're anxious, they not paying attention, easily distracted. And what we found is that organizations are saying there's a lack of positive behavioral change. They cannot equate the training to behavior change. They're saying we're spending a fortune training our people, but we're wasting our money because the behaviors are remaining the same. So what I want to do is show you what a company called KnowBe4 does. They've got what they call new school security awareness. So the first step is what they term baseline testing. They do a baseline where they send phishing emails to all employees to see how many will click on this link. So you will have things like free pizza, click here, and they will see how many people will click on it. Free soccer tickets, how many people will click on it. On average, it's about 30% that click on these links. The next step is to train people. Just make them aware of what to look out for when receiving emails. Training needs to be done in small bite-sized pieces, not a one-day tick the box finish for the year. Rather take that day and split it up into 10, 20-minute segments throughout the year with little video clips. So let me give you an idea. So this gentleman here is Kevin Mitnick. He has got the reputation of being the world's most famous hacker. He was the first hacker to go to jail in America. He served 7 years in prison. He's now out of jail and he does ethical hacking. He's a director of KnowBe4 and he's part of the training. And just to give you an idea of the type of training they do.
Mario, I'm afraid we don't have the sound on the video.
Apologies. For some reason, Teams switches it off, even though I've switched it on.
Oh, have you switched it on? You might just, when you're sharing the screen at the bottom, there might be an option to share the computer audio. So
yes,
you might just need to. Oh, you did select it. Okay.
Yeah, but it's for some reason it deselects. Sorry about that. Let me try again. Can you hear now?
So I have to tell you the story where
Yes.
I was hired to break into a major bank using social engineering techniques and defeating their physical security to get into their data center. So what I did is when I first went into the lobby of the skyscraper, it was over 50 stories. They had armed security guys with guns. You'd have to sign in a log after showing your driver's license, and then you could use your access card to get to the elevator to go up to your floor. So I had to figure a way to defeat this. So what I did is I found the number to the leasing office of the building. I called it, and then I used a little bit of phone pretexting. I said I was Jim Smith, that we just had a fire in the building, and I wanted to take a look at what office space they had available immediately. So the very next day, I'm now walking around with the leasing agent. She's showing me the different offices. I'm negotiating price. And then I wanted to ask her the key question. I go, how many keys do we get to the offices? She goes, oh, no, sir, we don't give you keys. We give you access cards. So what I noticed is that she actually had an access card dangling from her belt with her picture on it. So I asked her, I go, can I take a look at that? So she takes it off her belt. She hands it to me. And then with my daily planner, I put it over it. I look at her picture. I hand it back. And what she didn't realize is my daily planner that I was carrying was a special daily planner with a little bit of technology inside that was used to steal the card ID and the site ID so I could clone her card. So with this device, what I could do is take pretty much an empty card. We'll put it in front of the reader so you can see what that looks like. 0001, 0001. So with this device, basically put this down, I hit one button. That's all it takes. So now I've essentially cloned the card. So if you take the leasing agent's card, you put it in front of the reader, it's 113-64038. And if we take the card that I just made, it's the same, 113-64038. Essentially, these two cards are the same. So what I was able to do with the leasing manager's card is I didn't have to go in front of those security officers and sign in to get into the elevator. I went into the parking lot, and it worked with the freight elevator. So I was able to ride the elevator up to the floor where the bank was, and then use the same tradecraft to break into the bank. So not only do you have to be concerned about malicious emails, malicious phone calls, you have to be concerned when you're put into any situation where anyone asks to look at your card. Don't do it. You have to stop, look, and think before you hand out your access card to anyone.
So that, ladies and gents, is the type of training that is being suggested. Short little bits, 5-minute video clip, tick the box for the week. Next week will be something else. And some of them are very much South African flavor, because a lot of people say, well, yeah, I can't relate to American videos and accents. So I just want to show you one more.
There we go. Miss Water Fountain, yes. Well-traced brand names, loves online shopping. Your price has to be perfect. These are discount vouchers for high-end fashion stores. A footy fan. Oh, I love a footy fan. And he's a big one. I've got it. Season tickets to the game. Our footy fans are the easiest, man. Everybody supports the best team in the world.
Sorry, I'm currently out of office. Season tickets.
Be careful of targeted phishing attacks. Fraudsters go to great lengths to find out more about you to personalize their attacks. Limit what you share about you online and never click on anything you haven't expected, even if it's from someone you know.
And just like that, my friends, as promised, we have caught the big one.
So you can see how interactive and engaging these type of things are. And it's all very well. People could still sleep through these. You just never know. So the trick is to actively test the employees. And we say employees, we are talking about senior executives as well, because in many of these organizations, it's the senior people that are the worst culprits for clicking on these phishing links and not thinking when they click. So we would try and train people. So spot the fish. This is an online game. They would open it up and see there's something from PayPal. And they asked, is it legitimate? Click on the green block, or is it a fish? Click on the orange block. So let's say I look at it, dear PayPal customer, that's the PayPal logo. It looks okay, customer service. Click on it's legit. Tells me, sorry, it's a fish. You've lost 100 points. And then the next screen tells me why it's a fish. And I should have looked at the sender name, which is customer service, and the email service clientele is not a match. They're not calling me by my name. If I was a user of PayPal, it would say, "Dear Mario." And if you hover your cursor over this link, you will see it's not going to PayPal, it's going somewhere else. So they show you why. This keeps them on their toes. Other things that can be done, we load malware onto a memory stick and we leave these memory sticks around. And we wait to see how many people will pick up the memory stick and plug it in. And what we've seen in various surveys is that over 64% of people click on these things. They put the memory stick in, open it up to see who it belongs to, and if they see Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, they start clicking on them, enabling macros. This actually shows you which employees are doing it. You get a report, see the results, and it shows you, and you can compare to your industry prone average and look and see right down to which employee is putting the most pressure on us, which is the bad apple. And you're always going to get that, ladies and gents. In every organization, you've got to get this handful of employees. So you try and get down your industry average from 30%, and most organizations succeed in getting it down to about 2 to 3%. But there will always be somebody that clicks on it. And remember, these fraudsters are very inventive. They keep on coming up with new tricks. So we need to be constantly aware of these new tricks. We also get asked, why is it so difficult getting the desired behaviors from our employees? They attend the training, but we don't see the right actions. It's a combination of three things, ladies and gents. The people need to be motivated. Why should I do this? They need the ability. So is it difficult to do? Do I have to give up 3 days of my time to go and sit in a classroom where I know I've got pressure at work? That's not easy to do. Whereas if I know it's a 20-minute session, that's easy to do. I can give up 20 minutes of my week, but not 2 to 3 days. And then when I get the prompt, I am sufficiently motivated and I have the ability to do it. And that drives the right behavior, combined with the active phishing emails that the people are going to receive. How do we motivate people? Well, there's personal achievements where people become the cyber hero, the pioneer, the graduate, whatever the case may be. People love these things. Just go and look on Facebook and WhatsApp and all these other social media groups. People love these little badges, top commenter, and so on. And then you can also motivate people in groups where we got the Avengers who are #1 spot. So it puts pressure on X-Men and the Justice League to try and catch up to #1. It's peer pressure. So they'll put pressure on their colleagues to say, why haven't you taken the training? We still have only 16% of people have finished the training, whereas the Avengers, who are #1, has got 93%, and then give them some sort of award at the end of it. So if we look at it over a 6 to 12 month period, what will happen is you'll come out with your executive message and maybe an introductory video introducing people to the concept. You will then have your learning modules. You'll maybe have a newsletter. And the whole time these are coming out, you're phishing. And then a new newsletter comes out, a new message, new training. And the whole time you're still phishing, sending the phishing emails. So it's the combination of don't do this, rather do that. And then the experiential, where the people are receiving these phishing emails and they don't know if it's legitimate or not. And they've got an opportunity to report it or click on it or delete it. So basically, we're trying to get people from the unconscious incompetent, moving them up to conscious that they're not doing the right thing, to the next stage where they consciously do the right thing, to the final stage where they unconsciously are doing the right thing. And that takes time, ladies and gents. 1 day course won't do it, but 5 to 10 minutes every couple of weeks is what achieves that goal. Tessian did a survey on data loss prevention, and it's saying data loss prevention has failed. And remember, that's what PoPI looks at. Your data, what are you doing with it? Are you losing your data? If so, why are you losing your data? And they found that 40% of organizations do security awareness training once a year or never. 40% once a year or never. 24% once every 6 months. and 37% once every 1 to 3 months. It's better than the other two, but still not ideal. People need to be constantly made aware of the tricks that the criminals are using. Remember, it takes one person to click on a link and you are front page news with a ransomware attack, like happened to City of Joburg, one of the large insurance companies in the last 2 to 3 years. And the other thing is hackers love South Africa because our cybersecurity measures are not as robust as the rest of the world. And we are lacking training and public knowledge. So they come here to test out their schemes before they fine-tune them and start targeting Europe, Australia, and the Americas. So that was the training part of it. The other part I want to talk to you about is the monitoring. We need to monitor. We can't train and forget, because our people will forget. So we need to train them and then monitor them to see, are their behaviors changing? Is the culture changing? Are we getting to a culture now where people are security aware and are treating the organization's assets as though it was their assets? And what you get in organizations, ladies and gents, is a formal and an informal culture. And what we found is that the executives in many organizations are out of touch with the informal culture, because management, in many cases, middle management, are protecting the executives from the real face of the business. And that's why we say executives need to get down to the factory floor every now and again and just speak to people, or make sure that they are somehow communicating with them face to face, by surveys, however. Find out what is our informal culture and how far away is it out of alignment from what we think is our formal culture. If you ask people, ladies and gents, they generally tell you. Back in the 1980s, Hollinger and Clark published a research on 12,000 employees, and they found that job dissatisfaction is the #1 cause of employee deviance. Stealing time, defrauding, taking bribes, and so on. And most people say, nobody asked me. Whenever we do a forensic investigation, we ask people who were colleagues of the suspect. And they say, oh, we suspected, we saw this, we saw that. And when we say, why didn't you say something? They say, well, nobody asked me. If somebody asked me, I would have said something. I also want to remain anonymous. And you might think, well, that was in the 1980s. Surely things have changed by now. Yes, they have, ladies and gents. It's got worse. Here's an article from this year, 2020, Employee Satisfaction and the Impact of Corporate Fraud. There is the URL if you'd like to download it and read it. Actually gotten worse. So how do we assess a company's culture as it relates to fraud and ethics? By interviewing people face to face, observations. What are we observing during each day? Reviewing historical, fraudulent, and unethical activities, what happened and how it was handled, and of course, anonymous surveys. So when we used to do our old school training, class of people sitting in front of us, we would do a 2-stage survey, pre-survey, a pre-workshop questionnaire, and a post-workshop questionnaire. And then we can compare how much do the people know prior to the workshop versus how much do they know after the workshop. And we ask questions like, do you think the people you work with are generally honest? And these are the answers we get. And I just want to compare here 2 branches, branch 1 versus branch 2. Branch 1's not looking too good. 53% of the people in this branch don't think that their colleagues or bosses are very honest, versus branch 1, which is much better, but still not great. And when we ask, what types of unethical behaviors are you seeing? They tell us, because we're an outsider. Remember, there's a saying, prophet is not without honor, except in his own home and his own town. They start listing, there's nepotism, favoritism, theft, money laundering, whatever the case may be. That's branch 1, the bad branch. There's branch 2, the good branch, the better branch. The second stage of the survey now is to anonymously survey the people to find out what's the root cause of this. And what we found is in 80 to 90% of the time, it's a people problem. It's normally the boss and the boss's leadership style. So we do what's called a Blake and Maton leadership style survey. There's branch 1. You will see that 34% of the managers are perceived as not caring about people or the task. Only 19% care about both. Versus branch 2, much better, where 54% of managers care about both and only 11% don't care about either. We also ask them, I mean, if you hire consultants, what do consultants know about your business? Not much. We'd have to work there to find out what's actually going on. So we ask these type of questions. What do you think should be done to enhance the current claims process? Because this was a pension fund that we were doing this in. And they give us all their answers, and we take their answers and put them into those 3 golden triangle categories that we spoke about at the beginning of this presentation. Just like Taichi Ono at Toyota, he said, why hire consultants when our people can give us the ideas of what needs to be fixed in order for us to move forward? And we divide it into the 3 categories. Back to Tessian and their research. On the left here, they asked IT managers, do you think your people are reading and obeying your policies? 95%, 89% said yes, our people read the policies, they understand them, and they believe them. They then surveyed the people in these companies, and look how many said, no, we don't reading those policies, we don't understand them, and we're not following them. We know we shouldn't copy information that's important on an unencrypted memory stick, but I do it anyway. They're admitting to these type of things. So 91% of IT leaders say they trust employees are following the policies, while 48% on average of employees say they're not following them. Some people say to me, oh, come on. In today's day and age, people don't know what phishing is. I'm going to show you a little clip. Please tell me if you can hear the sound.
I don't know much about phishing scams, actually.
This is a person who heads an organization of 4,000 staff members that don't know what phishing is. Then we have something called spear phishing, where, for example, they don't send out a mass mailing to millions of people. They will use a spear phishing tactic. So they will find out who in your organization plays golf, and then they will spear phish that person or those persons. So if they find out that there are 5 golfers in your organization, those 5 people will get a phishing email with an offer of a free golfing magazine subscription. Much more effective.
Yeah. What is you throw a spear at a fish, catch it. Right?
Wrong. And then they ask people, have you had any formal training regarding phishing, spear phishing, ransomware attacks, and so on?
No, to be honest, we haven't done a formal training for it. Most of us are young. I think we all just have this assumption that we know what we're doing on the internet, but I think we should know better, honestly. So if things are getting more sophisticated, it's something I would be interested in learning more about.
Mario, just a note, we have 5 minutes for your part of this session. I just wanted to alert you.
Great. Thanks so much, AJ. Ladies and gents, in conclusion, I want to wrap up by looking at the Department of Justice. In the United States of America, the Department of Justice monitors compliance, and they brought out a booklet. I've given you the URL over here, called 11 Factors Relevant to Evaluating a Corporate Compliance Program. And the 11 things they look at, of which one of them is training. It's a critical standalone program. And since 2017 to now, businesses have changed. We are now doing training online. We are using Zoom and MS Teams, so they keep on updating this. And if you have a breach, and you, let's say here, the Department of Justice was here in South Africa, they would say, okay, you've suffered a breach, customer data was leaked out of your organization. What did you do to prevent this? And they will then decide, based on what you've done and how much more could you have done, whether executives get prosecuted and go to jail, whether you get a big fine or a small fine. So we're assuming something like this is going to happen in a year's time with PoPI. where they are going to enforce it by looking at what did you do and could you have done any more. So, for example, with training, the DOJ has said organizations now are using shorter bursts of information. That's great. But do participants have the ability to ask questions or raise concerns, either during the training or afterwards via chats or emails? And are we seeing changes of behavior? So it's critical that you monitor your employees and their behavior. And I just want to show you how effective the security program is. As I mentioned, on average, 30% of employees click on links they shouldn't have. Within 3 months, that drops to 15%. Within 12 months, it drops to about 2%. There will always be somebody clicking on a link. So you just need to manage those problem employees. That, ladies and gents, concludes the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions or comments. I think we have about 2 or 3 minutes left.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you very much, Mario, for sharing your insights. Yeah, there are 2 questions. In terms of your insights, I think it provides us a nice practical model in terms of you've got a formula B equals to MAP, which is behavior equals motivation, ability and prompt. And you showed elegantly in the way we can transition from unconsciously competent to consciously competent. And you located within the development of a culture of digital ethics, which I think is important, and you provide a nice framework for it. The first question, Mario, is, are there guidelines for security for remote working?
Yes, there are. I actually did a webinar, which I can send you the link and you can download it from YouTube, where I had a look at what we suggest. We actually suggest there should be a work from home policy or an addendum to your code of conduct or employee contract that you sign. For example, what happens if there's a fire at home and the person burns, they get hurt? How comfortable are they? For example, Google has given every employee $1,000 to buy comfortable furniture at home. They don't want people getting their wrist all bent because they don't have a proper mouse. They don't want people having back problems because they're sitting in an uncomfortable chair. But yes, regarding security, many people are using default passwords at home and putting their organization at risk. And they're also going to sleep with their external hard drive plugged in. So if you do get hacked and there's a ransomware attack, they're going to encrypt your hard drive that's plugged into your laptop. So please unplug your hard drive when you're going to sleep. So if you do get hacked during the night, they don't get access to your backup.
Hi, Mario.
Yes, AJ.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. If you could share it, we will share the link with all attendees. Just a note for attendees as well. SABPP has formed a remote working community. If you'd like to join us there, please see the link on our website. Mario, the second question, and you've already addressed some of it, is how do we keep millennial employees engaged? You talked about badges, and I presume that refers to gamification. What ideas do you think we can use to engage millennials?
Yes, AJ. It's not just millennials. It's a lot of people. People they overdosed on training. Gone are the days where you can sit with PowerPoint presentation with bullet points. We need a little bit of animation. We need a little bit of videos, shorter bursts. And the important thing is to actually test the people. So that's why we're so excited about Know Before, because they actually send legitimate Pizza Hut. You'll get a Pizza Hut email from Pizza Hut, and they'll say, do you take us up on the offer or not? So it's real world. It's not hypothetical. It's the actual tricks and tactics that the criminals are using. I don't want to be the black sheep, as it's called, in the organization. You're the problem child. It's always you that are putting us at risk. I want to be one of them that actually says, I'm not sure of this. Let me ask IT before I click on it. So yes, gamification is one of them. And to actually send out phishing emails on a regular basis where people don't know if this is the phishing email or not, and they respond accordingly.
Okay. And it gets back to your formula, which is B equals to MAP, which is motivation, ability, and what is the last one again? Prompt.
Prompt, yeah.
Yes.
You'll respond correctly to the prompt then, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mario, for sharing your insights. Once again, we really appreciate it.
My pleasure, AJ. Thank you, ladies and gents.
Warm welcome to those who